Hello, and welcome to a special episode of Real Hawk Talk. This is Brian Nemhauser. It has been a while, folks. I'm at Hawk Blogger on Twitter, and sliding in just before the Seahawks are due to pick for the first time in the 2021 NFL Draft. Let me bring in the fellows. We got Real Jeff Simmons at Real Jeff Simmons on Twitter. We've got Nathan Ernst at Nathan E11 on Twitter. Jeff, set the stage, man. Where are we in the draft? Who's left, and how are we feeling?
So it's about to be pick 54. Seattle's pick 56. The draft has fallen really well for them. So I don't know if that means it's a trade back or that means they're going to pick. Brian was on this on Twitter today saying the center position was obvious. There's been a huge run of offensive tackles. There's been like 8 or 9 go this round. So 2 of the 3 centers that we had targeted that I thought would go early in this round, maybe even yesterday. So that's Creed Humphrey from Oklahoma. And there's Quinn Menners, who blew up at the Senior Bowl. We talked about him the other day. He's, I think, Dayna's favorite player. Those guys are both sitting there with 3 picks to go. Pittsburgh's ahead of Seattle. They need a center. Then if you like receivers or corners, there's been a lot of corners to go, but there's not been a lot of receivers. There is a plethora of options there if that's where they want to go. Nathan's just really studied the receivers, and he can probably get into them. But they're pretty much all sitting there with 2 picks to go and 2 teams who probably don't need receivers.
All right, Nathan. Who are you? First of all, if they do pick, what's the position you're hoping that they pick? Not necessarily a name. What's the position you're hoping they pick?
Yesterday or whenever we did the last pod, I said that I probably wide receiver. But with Creed being there, I don't know now if that changes it for me. I mean, they take him, that'd be pretty great. I thought he'd be gone before this. So right now, I really don't have a preference. So, I mean, it's going to be really, mind-numbing when they take like a defensive tackle or something. But, they, like Jeff just laid it out. They really kind of have the pick of the litter here.
Yeah, that's the thing. I'm saying it right now, before the pick's in, before it happens, just so we're all clear. This has all the makings of a Seahawks trade back. When the draft falls to them, their MO is to move back because their philosophy is if there's 3 guys they like, let's get another pick later, and then one of those 3 guys will be available when we drop down. I think that makes a lot of sense in a lot of situations. I absolutely would hate that move right now. And I was just being totally straight. I think there's a chance for them to pick the best center for them. Whoever that is, they can pick the best center, which I continue to believe is an absolute game-changing position for them, the way that the roster's setting up. I think that can have the biggest impact. And I think you can get one of the top 3 centers in this draft versus one of the top 10 or 15 corners or one of the top 10 or whatever receivers. Like, I think that you could get a center that's your center for the next, 5-10 years. And so don't screw it up. Don't get cute. Don't get me another 5th round pick that honestly just has not worked out well for the Seahawks in the past. I think if you look back, their trade backs, they've gotten a lot of picks. Those guys that they've gotten with them haven't necessarily always been. A lot of them have not panned out. So I want them to get a center. I think for sure they're going to trade back. That's where I'm heading to this.
I think at this point they could trade out of the 2nd round and still get a top 3 center in this class. Like, I think the 3 centers, like the top 3 are Creed, Dickerson, and Miners, right? Are those kind of
Dickerson went.
Dickerson went.
Oh, Dickerson went. Oh, okay. Where did he go?
He went to the Eagles pretty early in the 2nd round.
Oh, okay. Well, that must be good for his medicals then. I was going to say Dickerson has a big asterisk, but all right. So, yeah, all right, you can't go back that far then. But, those 2 guys, Creed and Miners, are still right there. So you could still trade back and still end up with a top, 5-6 picks and still end up with a top 3 center in this class.
Well, apparently the Seahawks are on the clock. And it doesn't show that for me what I'm looking at.
Pittsburgh must have submitted a pick then because they're on the clock on TV. The Colts took another edge rusher. Don't even know who this guy is.
Yeah. So I still don't have the Steelers pick showing up for me anywhere.
No, but it says the pick is in, so Seattle is on the clock.
Okay. So
this could be a center.
Here's the thing, Nathan, you're totally right. I'll still be mad. Like that's the fan side of me is like, this is not the time to mess around. Get the guy that is the best player at this spot and really make a difference in your team. Don't take any chances here. Like don't get the second best guy of the two that are left. Get the best guy right now. Anyway, for me, like I really, 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 a lot for me as a fan is riding on this pick.
Well, I completely disagree. I think of all the years to not trade back, this is the absolute worst one. You have 3 picks. You have to get more picks. But I mean, I get it. The trading back thing is frustrating for a lot of fans, but yeah, I'll be pretty frustrated actually if they don't at this point.
I get it. And that's why I like to put this all out there before it happens. This is not reactionary. This is not, in the moment, emotion. Like this has been on my mind since this offseason. They had such a great offseason and they patched so many holes. And this is really where there's just this glaring opportunity to make a difference.
Steelers took a tight end. So
Trimble?
No, Pat Freiermuth. So Seattle is on the clock.
Pat Freiermuth?
Yes. Freiermuth.
That's not a real name. That's a fake tweet.
Freiermuth, M-U-T-H.
That's worse.
Okay, we'll see if a trade comes up. They should. They're in a pretty good spot here either way. Either they can get. Here's the thing about Humphrey.
They're getting like a 5th round pick, right?
That's the tricky thing. Usually, like I would be all for a trade back here, but this draft is not deep.
It isn't.
And like I think one of the things I said on Wednesday, if you look at all the players that went in the 20s, there wasn't a lot of there was a couple guys who went. One of the guys went at their spot, actually, one of the tackles, but there wasn't a lot of exciting prospects. It was a lot of sort of meh guys. Like they could have taken, if they didn't make the Jamal Adams trade and they took Creed Humphrey 23rd overall, like no one would have batted an eye.
You know what's going to happen? I'm telling you right now, because you know who's right after the Seahawks?
The Rams are going to take one of them.
And you know who they don't have? Like, who's their center now?
I think they don't have one. Austin Blythe.
They're going to frickin' draft Creed Humphrey if the Seahawks trade back. And I'm going to be so livid if that happens. Like, do the obvious thing. Don't outthink yourself. Just take the great player and move the fuck on.
There's 2 minutes left in their clock.
We're bottom of the second here. I don't know how many great players are really
for centers. I think that's a little different for centers because centers are not typically valued as 1st round picks. People aren't going to spend a lot of times aren't going to spend. You can often get a great center in like the 2nd or 3rd round. And so, yeah, I don't know. I hear you, Nathan. 1:30 left on the clock for the Seahawks. I wish we could get Evan to dial in. I tried to get him on.
Does this mean they're working on a trade or does this mean
they're going to trade? I mean, come on. Okay, odds. I'd say it's like 70% chance that they trade.
I was going to say 80. Yeah.
Jeff?
They're in the final minute here.
Jeff, what's your percentage chance that they trade?
50-50.
50-50.
They're running out of time.
Oh, man. Okay, if it's not a center, I think we're agreed. Like, I'd be okay with either a receiver or a corner. Is there another player that you guys, sorry, you might have said this already, Nathan, but is there another player that's not a center that you guys would be excited to hear?
I don't know enough about the draft I paid attention a little bit to the receivers and the interior offensive line guys. So beyond that, I'll just be frantically YouTube searching them and seeing whether I'm mad or not.
Yeah.
There's 20 seconds left here.
They're trading then.
Yeah, that's got to be.
Watch them actually not get the pick in time and then lose the player.
and then lose the center Creed to the Rams.
Oh, my God.
Well, the time has run out.
Time is ticking.
Oh, something happened. It stopped.
That's got to be a trade they're trying to complete. I mean, there's no other reason that they would wait this long.
Oh, the pick is in. Pick is in.
Does that mean for sure the pick's in, or could it mean that it's a trade?
I don't know if we know right now.
Let's go to. The Seahawks are always at commercial when they're on the clock.
I know, always.
So is there anything we'd be mad about here?
No one has leaked anything on Twitter yet.
Which is weird.
Yeah, because they've been leaking way ahead of the picks. So I think this is a trade.
Like, is there anything they can do that would be for, I guess, quarterback?
Quarterback would be hilarious. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kicker.
I don't know much about the corners. I didn't study the corners that much.
How would you feel about a safety?
Not good.
Not good. Okay, pick is in.
Oh my God. Come on.
The fan says they are taking a player and not trading back.
Okay, I'm happy about that. I'm happy.
How do you want to announce this?
If this is the name, man. Come on. Do the thing.
Nothing weird.
Do the thing.
God,
Oh, I'm so nervous.
It's gonna be a linebacker, or a fullback. Oh man.
How is it not leaked on Twitter yet?
I don't know. This is very every other pick leaks. I guess Terrence Marshall's still there.
Oh my gosh. Still...
Nope, nothing yet.
Oh, you want me to spoil it for you? You want to?
Oh, I don't know.
Should I tip? I'll give you a hint. I'm giving my grade on this one is a D.
Oh boy. Oh God.
Brian, you're gonna love it.
What could it be? A D?
Oh man.
I'll give you another hint. He's from the LJ Collier tree of prospects. Is it really?
Oh, interesting.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Do you know who it is yet, Brian?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's not bad.
I mean,
it's not who I would have taken, but he is a slot receiver.
Yeah, and he's fast. He was
on Jake Heap's list of guys today.
He ran a 4.38.
He's a good player. I'm surprised they took him here.
Yep. How tall? He's not.
He's not big. He's small at 5'8".
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I was gonna say I want to say he's real small, and he is real small, real fast, real old. Being old and playing at a lower level of competition too is concerning. Got return chops, right?
Yeah, I don't like, because now they don't have another pick till the end of round 4.
Whatever.
They must have had a trade fall through. Yeah, that was not.
Never go small when you can go big, and
if the Rams take them,
they're gonna regret the guys that they passed in the middle.
All right, so we're gonna hang out for the Rams taking Creed then.
Oh my gosh. Well, look. So I hate the pick. And it has nothing to do with whether he's a good player or not. I hate the pick. I hate the position priority. But I understand at the very least, he certainly fits exactly into the Rams style offense. We haven't seen the Robert Woods style end around kind of player. He looks like the exact fit for that kind of player. He's a returner. He's going to be a guy you see stretching the field horizontally. Totally understand why he fits into what they're doing. I just really, really, really think they missed a chance to solidify the line, which, as far as I'm concerned, is what makes or breaks this team. I don't think the third wide receiver is going to make or break this team. And I think they could have gotten players elsewhere, like Golden Tate that could have come in. Not that I love Golden Tate, but there's no center waiting to be signed. This is it. So,
and one interesting thing, like, yeah, he obviously fits in like conceptually really well with the Waldron offense, or what we think Waldron will do. But comparing him to Robert Woods is 6 foot tall. Cooper Kupp is like, isn't he like 6'2"?
Yeah, he's a much bigger.
Yeah. So yeah, he'll do the same things. The height thing is a big difference, though.
Yeah, but I mean, you saw the Rams try to go with like the Tavon Austins and there was attempts at these players that are more agile. And again, Woods was good for 30 yards a game on end arounds. Like that was a pretty significant part of a staple of their offense. And Tyler Lockett can do that, but he's getting a little older, and I don't know. He's gotten injured a few times. I don't know if that's the role that they want him. He's not quite as fast as he used to be. This guy looks like he's got a little more juice to him. So hope we don't hear anything about how Russell doesn't get any support from the front office about taking players, on offense. Because once again, they got a receiver. So how many receivers have they taken in the last 3 drafts? Like 15? Like it's been crazy.
Yeah, but like only one of them still around. So
that's kind of my point. I mean, like,
guess they weren't so high on Freddie Swain. That story was.
Yeah. So I think a lot of people are going to compare this guy to Tyler Lockett. We'll see. I haven't watched enough of him to say. I only watched a little bit, and my immediate impression was just like, oh, he's exactly what you think a 5'8", 5'9", 4.38 receiver is going to be, right? And yeah, that could be interesting in this offense with Waldron, right? I would really hold off saying, oh, well, Lockett's small, Lockett's thin, right? And he's really good. Lockett was really special, not just in his speed, but the way he attacked balls and could bring them down. And you could see that in college. And that really showed up in the pros immediately too, right? Like you can think of a lot of plays where Tyler's down the sideline and he, goes up and gets a jump ball, not beating the guy with speed, beating him with speed, but then going up and catching the ball over them. So that'll be something I go back and look for with Eskridge to see if he shows any of those kind of same skills. I mean, that'll be the big question between, is he a gadget guy? Is he a Tavon Austin type? Or is he a legit receiver who can, make plays down the field and be a real factor in the passing game?
Yeah, and to be clear, I'm happy that they came out of this draft with a receiver. Like I that was clearly a need. I'm glad they saw it. I'm glad they've done something about it. I just didn't want it to be in this pick. I didn't want it to be with those. I don't think there's any chance there's going to be one of these quality
Rams took a receiver too.
Yeah, did they go receiver?
Did you get Marshall?
No, they took Tutu Atwell, which is a similar style play.
Yeah,
small,
and
fast guy.
So that's the other cool thing, I'd say it's a cool thing about this pick, right? A lot of this type of player, right? There's him. Amari Rogers is bulkier. I think just off the little I've seen. Huh?
That was the guy who I pegged initially. I
liked him more. Tutu Atwell. Elijah Moore, who obviously went a while ago, much different class of player. But I think that for the most part of this type of player, Seattle Rondell Moore went a few picks ahead to the Cardinals too. So
I wonder if they liked him.
Yeah, well, you got to think that if they were going to take Eskridge here, they would have taken more.
So I mean, totally honest, I've not watched either of these players much, but watching their highlights back to back, these look like they're going to be compared to each other quite a bit.
Yeah, they're very similar.
Both 5'9" receivers.
And you got to be thinking they have the same role in mind, same offense.
Exactly. I mean, to have Waldron pick one and his old boss pick the other is interesting. And it'll be curious who got the better end of that. Because I think these two guys are going to be linked throughout their career.
Both passing on the same center class, which is
yeah. And I like the name Tutu, I got to say. That's pretty cool. But Dwayne, Dwayne's fine, although I'm not psyched that I've got another apostrophe I've got to work through in my articles. It's an extra shift shift key that I'm going to have to.
Receivers.
have to take.
Yeah, and so before anyone screams at me about like immediately being a downer, I do not actually give this pick a D. The joke is his name is D apostrophe Wayne. That was a clue, not actually my opinion.
Immediate honest grade of the pick, as much as you know about it. Nathan, where are you at on this?
I'm gonna put my snobby draft, like my snobby like NFL commentator. You really can't grade a draft the day of. It's just
but you're required to.
You can't grade it until like 3 years from now. So I'll get back to you on that one.
I'm not gonna allow you to do that. Give me a grade. Give me your initial gut. What you can close your eyes tonight. You're gonna think about this pick, and you're gonna say that was.
I think it was a mistake to pick here, and I think I would have felt that way about anyone, right? Again, we talked about this before, right? You got your reaction and I got mine reaction, and or like not reaction, like
pre-rant
in. I wanted them to trade down here.
Yeah.
And there were probably players that I would have felt better about them sitting and taking. But like I don't exactly love Eskridge, and I really did want them to trade down, so I wouldn't have been that high on whoever they took here. So like for me, I'm like a C-.
Yeah. It's almost certain, Jeff, they were trying to trade. There's no reason
that's
all the way down to the clock. They obviously didn't get any takers that were offering them anything worth doing. So knowing, with that in mind, what's your grade?
I'm a C. We'll start with the positives. Eskridge, like usually they take guys that are just way out of their range. They don't value players really. Eskridge range the whole time was like a late second, early third. Like he could have been the guy the Rams were going to take there. And the good thing about it, we've been talking about how they needed a receiver that sort of complemented what they already had. And so we had all pegged that pretty well, that they needed a different kind of receiver. And last year watching them, I always kept saying they needed someone to get open quickly. On the negative side, it's hard to see why with only 3 picks they picked there. And trading, unless you were going to take one of the centers who seemed to be at the top of the value where you couldn't pass, it's hard to see this as a guy as like you couldn't trade out. You had to take this guy now. Unless they just didn't have any offers. So my grade is more about how they use this value because they don't have a pick now until the middle of the 4th round. So they did not maximize this value. They took a guy that they could have taken a bunch of other guys. It's not like a home run pick. And if they took a center, I would have given it an A.
Yeah.
And the centers aren't going. So maybe they know something that everyone else does, but I don't think they maximize this pick given their situation, only having 3 picks. It's hard to imagine that they thought like, we got to get this guy now. We can't move down and add more because they need more.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I foreshadowed how I was going to feel about this. It didn't matter who the name was. And this player could end up being great. I mean, absolutely. Like, I don't know enough about him to say that my grade for this has nothing to do with the player that they actually picked, which is, I'm just being clear about that. I think Jeff's right. And Nathan, I agree with you too. I mean, differently, but still, I think this gets down to, did they strategically get the right value for the pick that they had here? And I don't think they did. In your case, Nathan, you would have said, hey, trade back and get some more, value out of this draft overall. My guess is they tried and couldn't do that. Jeff, I think you're saying there's other places that they could have gone to help their team more and get more value out of this draft. And that's where I am. My honest reaction to this is F. Like that's my knee jerk, on video now forever reaction is they had a golden opportunity here to draft a player that was going to be a starter, not a third receiver, even though third receivers play a lot, a starter on that offensive line for years to come. Now, we don't know that for sure, but there's a lot of reason to think centers are not as hard to scout as I think a lot of other positions. And there were some really good ones available. They didn't take them. And so I think given the way this draft just set up so perfectly for them to fill that gap and for them to turn their backs to it and go after a receiver, I just think is a significant mistake, and just strategically in how they approach the pick. So This
Can
will
I
probably
put
make for a
my-
good video later. People can make fun of me, but that's where I am on it.
Can I put my Dayna hat on for a minute?
Yeah.
Okay, because all right, the cons are clear here, right? 3 picks, trading down, getting more, that would have been good. 24, old, right?
Perfect
And
Seahawk.
then what's that?
He's a perfect Seahawk.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. And then yeah, I mean, they took what, like the 8th receiver off the board instead of like the second center, and the center is also a big need. So those are the clear cons here, right? He's not LJ Collier though in like his physical tools. Like he has the chance to be an electric player. Fits the offense great, like we already talked about. Can do things horizontally and with the ball in his hands, which gives them something that they don't really have right now. But also with the speed and everything, you know, if Lockett slumps or gets hurt, or even if DK gets hurt, right, you hope that he can continue to help you stretch the field, right, in the way that those guys can too. So there's a lot to like about this pick. I think it's really just, you know, a question of the value of it all. But I mean, I think Eskridge has a chance to be a really fun, if nothing else, player for this team for a few years.
Yeah, I mean, for this to be, for just so it's, again, for me to feel differently about it than I feel about it now, a few things have to happen. One, they either have to draft a center that ends up being good some other way. 2, the centers that were available to be picked now turn out to not be good players. Like, if that happens. And then third on that list would be Eskridge becomes a great player. Like, that's the least impactful part of this for me. He could end up being a really good third receiver. And if Creed Humphrey ends up being a Pro Bowl center, this still will have been an F from my perspective. So that's where I'm coming from on this. Like, so we'll find out. I hope he's great regardless. I certainly won't be cheering against him. And I hope if they don't get a center, I hope Ethan Posick somehow becomes much better than he was last year.
I will say this: center is a position historically that you can get in the middle of the draft.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the best centers in the league have not been high picks.
Yep.
You look at Corey Linsley, for example, the guy we all would have given him an A offseason. They signed him. He was like a 5th. When they come up in the 4th round, there might be centers. So in this offense, especially, like they got a lot out of Austin Blythe, who was just like basically a street free agent. So I will say that they might not look at the center position the way we did.
And the other thing is too, you know, we're looking at centers, right? Like the guys who played center in college, but you don't have to draft a guy who played center in college to get a center, right?
Yeah.
I know you're a big fan of the moving Haynes inside to center potentially, right? Dylan, before the podcast started, we were talking about Dylan Radins going to Tennessee, like 5-6 picks ahead of Seattle. He was an offensive tackle at North Dakota State. I think he played guard in the Senior Bowl. And when I watched him play guard in the Senior Bowl, I was looking at him thinking, I don't know why he can't play center, right? I mean, there's obviously more to it, right? So more to it in what makes a center and how you have to be smart enough, or like at least understand the reads and everything, right? Which we can't do from our perspective, but the Seahawks have almost certainly done their homework on, right? And so we're looking at Creed and saying, oh, he's the best center left on the board, right? And that may be true, but the Seahawks may be looking at an offensive tackle or an offensive guard and saying, well, they're going to be a better center in the long run, right? And that may be somebody they can get in the 4th round.
Yeah.
So
Far from the sky is not falling. It sucks that they don't seem to have a lot of ways to get more picks at this point, although we'll see if they end up flipping some players, or, you know, Penny or somebody like that can get them a pick, which will help a little bit. But
so I'll say this: Eskridge is a fun player. That's the good part about this. He has a lot of upside. He's got great speed. And if Tyler gets hurt, like Nathan said, this is a very natural guy to slide in there. And the last 2 years, what's happened to their passing game when Tyler went out, they've collapsed. And so Eskridge itself could be a really fun player. The adds return value. It's not a whiff.
Well,
So
let's talk about the Seahawks 2nd round receivers in the John Schneider era. Most recently, people will remember this name, DK Metcalf. Pretty good. Before that, the 2nd round receiver before that was Paul Richardson. Wasn't bad.
Between those two with Lockett with the first pick of the third round, right?
Yeah, Lockett
So
was
just 5-6 picks or whatever after where they just took Eskridge.
and apparently most of this guy's yards come after the catch,
Yep.
which is exactly what between him and Gerald Everett now, you really add a new element to this offense.
Oh, this offense is fast as hell.
It is very fast. Sorry, just to finishing, the other second round receiver that they picked was Golden Tate.
Yep.
So the worst second round receiver they have picked was
Paul Richardson.
So, they've had good track record with taking receivers early. I think there's reason to believe. And I think John Schneider's early in the draft with receivers done pretty well. He's at thank God they didn't pick a receiver in the 4th round. That's probably the best part of this because that has not been a good round for them to draft receivers historically. So
didn't pick a receiver in the 4th round yet.
So true. I mean, Kevin Norwood, I hear he might be back in the draft, or Chris Harper.
They do need more.
Chris Durham. I could see if he's still available.
Chris Durham.
Yeah. All right, guys. Anything else you want to say before we wrap up on this edition? Okay. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. If you haven't already joined,
within an hour.
What's that?
I said I think within an hour I'll somehow convince myself this was a good pick.
I will not, but I will be. I will be happy. I'll be happy that.
You know what's going to happen, Brian?
Huh?
It's going to be training camp. You're going to be sitting on the berm or whatever, and you're going to see Eskridge just torch everybody, and then you're going to be put your blog post up, and you're this guy.
That's going to be this thing. Look, I'm no Nostradamus, but like my guts about their early picks have generally, for me, they've panned out. I haven't changed my mind about a lot of their early picks from the initial reaction, and that's the thing. I think I could get really excited about this guy, but if Creed Humphrey ends up being a Pro Bowler somewhere, I will never be happy about this. So like that's the part that's just really tough for me to get past, and I don't want to cheer against that guy either, but yeah, we'll see. Hopefully they figure out a way to patch that spot. And yeah, man, giving Russ 3 great receivers and a great tight end like you guys talked about, and Disley is now your like backup tight end, and Colby Parkinson's behind him, and we don't know what he has. Like and you got Chris Carson back, and you got Penny getting healthy, and like, and what's the other running back they picked up? Did they pick up someone else or no? Just Carson.
No, just Carson.
Yeah, sorry. And so yeah, I think I think they've got a lot of weapons on offense, and I think the offensive line is definitely better. So a lot of things to be excited about there. Just don't like this pick. So, all right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Check us out at patreon.com/hawkblogger. We will talk to you again soon. Until then,